KLA Corporation KLAC, Beginner's Guide. Imagine every chip maker on Earth, the companies that make the brains inside your phone, your laptop, and the data centers running AI, needing one specific company to check their work before they ship anything. That company is KLA, and it has about 58% of that global market, which is roughly 7 times bigger than its nearest competitor. This episode is purely educational, just a beginner-friendly tour of what the business does. We are not talking about whether the stock is a buy. So, what does KLAC actually do? KLA makes the machines that inspect semiconductor wafers while they are being manufactured. To translate, a wafer is the thin disk of silicon that gets sliced into hundreds of individual chips. Modern chips have billions of features that are smaller than a virus, so manufacturers cannot just eyeball them. They need ultra-precise tools that scan each wafer, find defects, measure dimensions, and feed the data back so the factory can adjust. That category is called process control, and KLA is the world leader in it. In KLA's fiscal year 2025, total revenue was about $12.2 billion, up 24% from the year before. The business splits into 3 segments. The biggest by far is semiconductor process control, which brought in about $10.9 billion, 90% of the company. This is the core business, the inspection tools, the measurement tools, and the data software that runs the leading-edge fabs. The second segment is specialty semiconductor process, at about $587 million, or 5%, machines used for advanced packaging, which is the new technique of stacking chips on top of each other to make AI accelerators faster. The third segment is PCB and component inspection at about $622 million, also 5%. This one inspects printed circuit boards and AI-related packaging products. KLA also sells a lot of service. That means maintaining and upgrading the tools after they are installed. Service is now about $3 billion a year, roughly 23% of revenue, and it has grown for 16 years in a row. Service matters because once a tool sits inside a customer's factory, KLA can earn revenue from it for a decade or longer. So, who does KLAC compete with, and how does it win? KLA's competitive position is what investors call a wide moat, meaning a competitive advantage that is very hard for other companies to overcome. The most basic part of the moat is sheer scale. KLA has 58% market share in process control, which is about 7 times the share of its nearest competitor. The main rivals are Applied Materials, ASML, Lasertech from Japan, and Onto Innovation, but each of them only covers a slice of what KLA does. KLA's broadband plasma wafer inspection tools, which use a wide spectrum of light to spot defects, basically have no equal at scale. The second part of the moat is switching costs, the cost and pain a customer faces if they try to replace a vendor. KLA's tools are wired deep into customer manufacturing lines, from the research lab through full-volume production. Qualifying a new inspection tool takes 6 to 12 months of testing before a chip maker trusts it on real product. That long qualification cycle makes it extremely expensive to swap KLA out for someone else. Customers like Taiwan Semiconductor, Samsung, and Intel keep using KLA tools not only on the newest chips, but also on older ones to squeeze more good chips out of each wafer. The third part of the moat is structural. Every time the industry moves to a smaller chip generation, the amount of inspection required goes up. So KLA's market gets bigger with each new node, not smaller. What are the key drivers for the business over the past 5 years? There are 3 big forces that drove KLA's growth over the last 5 years. The first is rising process control intensity at the leading edge of chip making. As chips have gotten more complex, with AI processors, EUV lithography, which uses extreme ultraviolet light to print finer features, HBM, which stacks memory chips for AI, and advanced packaging, which combines multiple chips into one module. Every new chip needs more inspection steps than the last one did. KLA grew its share of process control by 360 basis points since 2021, reaching 58% in 2025. Interestingly, the 2-nanometer chip generation requires more process control work than the 3-nanometer one, even though they use similar amounts of EUV. So as the industry climbs the technology ladder, KLA gets a bigger slice with every step. The second force is advanced packaging. 5 years ago, KLA had only about 10% of the advanced packaging inspection market. By 2025, it became number one in that market and grew advanced packaging revenue by roughly 70% year-over-year. Advanced packaging is the technique that lets companies like NVIDIA build huge AI accelerators by stacking memory on top of logic chips and connecting them with tiny copper wires. KLA's advanced packaging revenue was around $635 million in calendar 2025, and the company raised its calendar 2026 target to about $1 billion, up 58%. The third force is the service business. As more KLA tools sit inside customer fabs, the recurring service revenue compounds. Service grew at about a 15% annual rate to $3 billion and now represents 23% of revenue, and KLA recently raised its long-term service growth target to 13 to 15% per year. To wrap up, so if you remember one thing, KLA is the dominant inspection company that the entire global semiconductor industry depends on to find defects and measure chips, and its business gets bigger every time chips get more complex. As a learner, the things to keep an eye on are very specific advanced packaging revenue, because that is where the next leg of growth is concentrated, the service business growth rate, because that is the annuity-like layer of the company, and overall industry capital spending on wafer fab equipment, because KLA rides that wave. This episode was educational only. Nothing here is a recommendation to buy or sell anything. If you want to dig deeper, start with KLA's own investor presentations and go from there.